right. Well, a nice little winning streak you guys have been able to put together. I mean, you've mentioned before that it's one of the main things is getting healthy, but another thing that's standing out to me is the defense. How has your defense been able to progress throughout this winning streak?
It's experience that they lacked at the start of the year. They've gotten that over the course of the season. We've got players that are just playing better than they did, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, and they're starting to gain confidence as their play improves. You saw that on Saturday. They played with great emotion, a little bit of swagger out there, which is nice to see. And it's 2 weeks in a row now that they've really risen to the occasion and played well. So credit to the coaches that have been working incredibly hard to figure this thing out. And we made some changes after the Western Oregon game, moved a few players around, put Curtis Williams in the starting lineup, moved James Clark back to safety, and those moves seem to have benefited us. And I'm very pleased with what I've seen from our defense the last 2 weeks.
And just to see them, obviously, they had their struggles early in the year. To see them now, say, do what they weren't doing earlier in the year. I mean, how fulfilling is that as a coach to know that, you're seeing progress, the progress that you were hoping for?
That's what it's all about. It's tremendously satisfying from a coaching standpoint. They're the same kids in many cases, but again, they've worked and worked and worked from day one. And where they were making a lot of mistakes early on and just not making plays, the last 2 weeks we've seen seem to do a 180 and they're making plays. Really, that's what it comes down to. Just there are plays there to be made. Earlier in the season we were not making them. The last few weeks we have, but it's just 2 weeks. We hope that can continue.
Central, obviously, the second half wasn't pretty here, but knowing how you guys are playing, I mean, how nice is it going up there with a whole lot of confidence compared to, say, kind of battling inconsistency?
Yeah, again, we believe we're a much different, in fact, better football team than we were the first time we saw them, and we're healthy, as healthy as we've been maybe. You saw what Jaquan did, and certainly it's an indication that he's fully recovered from his ankle injury. When we played Central the first time, John Todd, the receiver, was in his first game back, adapted to the knee brace and such. I think Marjani Ellison played just a couple series and went out with injuries. So it'll be nice to have all of our weapons, but we got our work cut out for us. They are a good football team, as we witnessed here, back in mid-October. Playing in Ellensburg is a very difficult place to play and win at for a number of reasons. Number one, is always a good opponent on the other sideline in Central. A grass field mid-November. We've seen some games already where it's been raining during those games. That field's going to be torn up, I suspect, and it's just a difficult atmosphere. So, but we've got one game remaining. That's it. We know that our season ends after Saturday, so there's no reason to hold anything back. We'll go up there and give it our best shot.
Your running back obviously did some historic things on Saturday, but their number one wideout, Jesse Zalk, also did some pretty impressive things. How do you try and at least slow down a guy like that who's coming off a performance like he is? Yeah,
he's an outstanding player, and then Justin Lane, the quarterback, is really having a fine year also. So, number one, you got to know where Zalk aligns at, because they'll have him both inside and outside, and then you got to make sure that you're focused on the routes that he's going to run, and he runs a lot of deep routes, and he hit us on a deep route here, back a month ago. So, again, he's tremendously talented. Very, very fine receiver. We've seen that in this league with Paul Rivas, Western Oregon being a similar type receiver. So we're just going to have to make sure that you got to go out and you got to play. You got to make plays. And last week, Zalk made plays up there against Simon Frazier. And this week, hopefully, when those same situation arises, our guys can be there and make the play that needs to be made.
I know after the game Saturday, you mentioned Robert had kind of a feeling in his hand. Is he doing all right?
Yeah, we go back to practice today, and he seems to be fine. And it's something that's bothered him the last couple weeks, so it can flare up, and that's just something we'll have to monitor.
I guess going off of that, is it nice knowing that 32 is healthy again? So if Robert is having problems, you can hand it off to
Well, you saw that Saturday. It's more than nice. Okay, it's again, our offense changed when Jaquan was not at 100%, and unfortunately it was that way for the majority of this year. But he's back, and certainly he's what we do offensively starts with him, and so again, we hope that he can have a solid game on Saturday, because we're going to need that from him if we have any chance against Central.
knowing how you guys kind of started the year with inconsistencies, what would it mean for you guys as a team to finish out the year with a win and just finish?
7-4 for this team from where we were would be a great accomplishment. I think going into the off season with a 4-game winning streak would be fantastic. But regardless, I'm very pleased with the progress that we've made this year. Again, we had to rebuild almost the entire defense. And the one player we did have coming back, Cameron Buell, suffered a knee injury game 1, and has really never been the same. Then we had an offense that dealt with significant injuries to key people. Chase Crevichet playing just 3 games. So, that's the adversity that a football season can throw at you. We certainly dealt with ours this year. I think we've handled it as good as can be expected. And I do believe and hope that down the road we're better off because of it. But it's been a challenging year, no question about it. So to end it, with a win on Saturday against a quality opponent like Central, but giving us 4 straight at the end of the year would be quite an accomplishment.
That's all I have.
And Coach, just looking at the defense for Central Washington, Gus Johnson was in here a little bit earlier, and he said that it's arguably the toughest defense you'll face this year with Haynes and Sanchez. What does that defense do that makes you have to make the adjustments on the offensive side to be successful?
They're an incredibly active defense. They are moving constantly. And they'll go from a 4-man front to a 3-man front, and in their 3-man front, you're going to see a wide variety of pressure. And they do so. They're pin your ears back and go, and that puts a lot of pressure on offensive linemen primarily, but everyone on the offensive side. So it's the scheme they're utilizing defensively and the pressure looks that they apply, we don't see week in, week out. So and they're going to get to the quarterback again. I think they sacked Azusa Pacific 5 times. They got to us 4 or 5 times in our first game. It's just part of their way of operating. But at the same time, what you hope is you can pick up some of those and make big plays. We're going to have to make big plays to have a chance.
When you look at that defensive secondary for Humboldt, and you look at the players that are making a big impact, McKenzie and Juwan Murphy both had interceptions this past game, and you look at a player like Julian Owens, a redshirt freshman who came in and has made a big impact for you guys, getting takeaways on the defensive side. How has that defensive secondary really been developing?
Well, it's still developing. They're so young that every game you kind of expect and believe that they are going to be a little bit better than the game before. We've got Arian Nash, the true freshman at corner. We've got Juwan Murphy, a redshirt freshman, who's just had now his first start on Saturday. You mentioned Julian Owens, another redshirt freshman. Even James Clark, the other safety, is a first-year player, just a sophomore. And Ryan McKenzie is a transfer JC player, but only has played corner 1 year. So it is young across the board in the secondary. And again, I think they are making progress. And again, I think it bodes well for our future. But again, there's going to be times, Juwan got beat on Saturday, and that they're going to find themselves out of position and not in position to make a play. And that comes with being young. We're going to have to live with that a little bit as we go through some of these growing pains with young players. But yeah, I think that they continue to progress. Julian Owens has started the majority of games this year as a redshirt freshman, and I think that again, the experience that he's gained this year is really going to bode well for his future and such. And so again, it is a work in progress, but it's coming along.